Dallas Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer, who was our offensive coordinator last season for the Cowboys. He wasn't doing any play calling, none of that. Now, the Cowboys let go of Mike McCarthy to hire this guy. Okay, so before I give you guys my reaction on how I feel about Schottenheimer being the next head coach, let's hear from Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys owner, on how he feels about this hire.
This is as big a risk as you could take. As big a risk as you could take. No head coaching experience. Now, let me share something with you. With all of that, you've just heard him reference his osmosis, his family. Anybody in this room that doesn't believe the apple doesn't go far from the tree has missed it someplace down the road, especially if there was an effort to make it that way, and there was an effort. How often do you have someone that has 25, I'm going to say 25, it may be 26, of years of working through the human relationship and working, aspiring to learn, have his ears and eyes wide open and looking for techniques and looking for things that make coaches better? How often do you have a chance to take advantage of all of that at 50 years old, which is a puppy? Yet he's had 25 years being around the kinds of things that he's going to have to draw on to be a coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, so let's go ahead and just take that in for a second, because, I mean, I get it. I get the point of view he's trying to make here. He's trying to say, oh, he does have experience. He does, but the guy's right next to you. Why do you need to say, oh, this is a risky move? What a way to make this guy feel better. I mean, seriously, what a way to make him feel better. But I will say, Brian Schottenheimer, he comes from a legendary coaching family. His dad is Marty Schottenheimer, who is in the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. He also coached the Chargers from 2002 to 2006. He's a very successful head coach. He was AFC Coach of the Year in 1986 and 2004. So he comes from a pedigree of good coaching. Now, as a Cowboys fan, do I want him to be bad? No, absolutely not. I want a winning product on the field. That is number one. Number two, I also wanted Deion Sanders. Now, I think Deion Sanders really loves Colorado, so I don't think that was really going to happen realistically, because there's no way. I mean, he said he loves the kids. He loves the program he's building. He is going to be a legend in Colorado. There's no way that he'll leave that. But going back, because I didn't play the whole press conference because there were some other things in here that I want to touch on, because Stephen Jones said something very interesting. So he was saying, well, we're on this supposed championship drought, using air quotes. I'm like, what's the point of air quotes? Are you trying to forget that this is not real? Or are you trying to admit that this isn't real, but you're like saying everyone's saying it? Like, I don't really understand where you're coming from with that. I think Stephen Jones, honestly, is delusional as well, along with Jerry Jones. I mean, he was like, I know this is risky. I really thought this through. I thought this through. Mike McCarthy, I thought about 5 days of keeping him around and the job. I'm like, okay. So obviously you thought this through. We know that. Okay. But the problem I have is, how does this make the Dallas Cowboys better? Schottenheimer wasn't calling any plays last year. Mike McCarthy was. And at this point, we might as well have kept Mike McCarthy. It can't be any worse than Schottenheimer right now. I mean, Mike McCarthy had 3 straight 12-win seasons in his 5 years coaching the Cowboys. So, he wasn't bad. It's just we didn't have any playoff success. And Stephen Jones also wants to say, well, we've had some success over the last 5 years. No, we haven't. We haven't won any Super Bowls. We haven't even made the NFC Championship. So, how is that successful? 1 playoff win in 5 years? Really? That's success to you? Okay. And to make matters worse, we hired the former Chicago Bears coach to be our defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus. Why would we hire him? I mean, people keep telling me he's a good defensive coordinator. Well, he better be, because he's going to be out of a job very quickly if he can't coach this roster and this defense that has talent all across the board. Now, we do need some work on middle linebacker in the draft. That is going to be key for our defense to take that next step, because our defense was atrocious last year. It was one of the worst in the NFL against the run. We got exposed a lot of times, but we did have a lot of injuries. So, I'll give us some slack on that. But, I mean, to be fair, Matt Eberflus on the Cowboys as a defensive coordinator, I just don't see the vision. I just don't. Now, I understand that he was here as the linebackers coach in 2011, 2017. And he was also the one of the passing advisors. He was we've seen that in Chicago. He clearly doesn't know how to run an offense, but he's on defense now. So that's a different thing. But as long as he's not coaching and having the ability to call timeouts and be like, hey, you don't want to do this? No. But the one thing I do hope for Schottenheimer is that I hope he's a young offensive mind, kind of like these new coaches like Ben Johnson, because, I mean, he is a younger guy. So, I would like to see Schottenheimer grow this offense. I just don't know how much growth we can have unless we get Ashton Genty and we get a solid run game, because I want Ashton Genty in the backfield with Rico Dowdle. I think a 2 running back system, we saw how it worked with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. It worked to perfection. And if Rico Dowdle can be a 3rd down back, Ashton Genty can be a 1st and 2nd down back and be a 3rd down back in short yardage situations, I think that'll be perfect. Now, if Schottenheimer can figure that out, I think we'll be okay. I did like a couple things he said in the press conference, though. He did mention culture and how we only do this to win. What's the point of going out there, putting all this work in if we're not going to win? And I agree. I'm tired of being a Cowboys fan and sitting back and being like, well, I hope we win a Super Bowl this year, because that's been Jerry's plan for the last couple of years. I hope we have the right players. I hope we're better. Hope is not a plan. So you can't, first of all, you cannot start out with that. Now, he also claims that Jerry Jones, this is not about his comfort zone. It was about Brian's pedigree, which I can kind of see the vision a little bit. I'm not really as upset as I was initially with it, because, first of all, when coaches are hired and you're trying to turn around a franchise, you're going to have a little hope before they go and actually coach and get a result, because you don't know what the result's going to be yet. So I'm okay with this hire for now, but if it ends up being bad, that is when I'm going to start to get mad, because you hired a person with no head coaching experience. But, I mean, you do have to start somewhere. I mean, Ben Johnson, he doesn't have any head coaching experience. And he's on the Bears. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Now, I'm not saying Ben Johnson is worse than Schottenheimer. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying Schottenheimer is on the level of Ben Johnson. I don't think so. I have never seen Schottenheimer call a play. He didn't even call a play last year. So that's where I'm okay, are you really going to turn this thing around? I don't know if he honestly will.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Broadway paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my